Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining from today. Welcome to this Dexibit webinar on retail analytics. My name is Angie, and I'm joined by the fabulous Veronika, our product director at Dexibit. Welcome, Veronika.
Thank you so much, Angie. Hello,
And
everybody.
today we're going to be talking all about retail analytics. So this is a great webinar if you're running a store or multiple stores within a visitor attraction, if you're running food and beverage outlets within a visitor attraction, or even if you're managing a third-party provider who's providing some of these auxiliary revenue operations. This is the webinar for you. We're going to be talking all about key performance indicators, how to manage performance and trends, and basket analysis and all sorts of other exciting stuff. Before we get started, a quick introduction to Dexibit. I'm going to share a screen, take you for a quick housekeeping tour, and then hand over to Veronika, who's going to get into the wonderful detail here. If you're new to Dexibit, this is what it looks like. Dexibit is a data analytics platform specifically for visitor attractions. So both cultural institutions like museums, galleries, zoos, parks, libraries, etc., and commercial attractions like tourism attractions, theme parks, stadiums, and so forth. And Dexibit pulls in and integrates data with all sorts of systems relating to your visitor touch points. So that's everything from maybe footfall counters and cameras through to ticketing systems, your CRM, point of sale, of course, of what you're using in store, maybe a different outlet that you've got for food and beverage. Maybe you've got data coming in from your third parties that's helping you with third-party partner management. And then taking all sorts of other data in, like digital data on your website and social, like email marketing, reviews that are coming in off your different platforms. And we even integrate out to the weather and include a calendar of what's on in and around your location. So bringing together all this data together. This is a quick look at what Dexibit looks like. You can manage multiple locations in there if you've got a large portfolio of locations between your different visitor attractions. And there's the opportunity to easily create dashboards. You can share them out with your team or turn them into automated reports. And creating a dashboard is super easy, whether or not you're data confident or a data analyst. You simply click on the library. There's a whole pile of pre-built visualizations here. Adding them is as simple as clicking the button. But then there's lots of really powerful functionality you can use to filter down the data that you're looking at, style up the visualization that you're looking at, and create those dashboards exactly the way you want. And of course, all your data remains your own. You can then also go down and download any of it, search it through, and dive into it in more detail through here. So with that very quick housekeeping tour, I'm going to hand over to Veronika, who's going to take us into a deep dive of retail analytics. I can't wait for this, Veronika.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen. 1 second. Switch over. Cool. Thanks so much, Angie. And as Angie mentioned, these dashboards can be built as easily just from the library view here, picking those pre-built visualizations. I'm not a data analyst myself, and so it's really easy and quick to just select the key insights that I want and put them on the dashboard without having to think, okay, how do I need to structure my graphs? What kind of X and Y axes do I need? When looking at retail analytics, generally we start off with a top view revenue, looking at those top numbers. And so something that we look at here is total revenue for a specific time period. And this also is broken down by our daily average revenue. And what's really cool is I can actually see how am I tracking for the same period last year. And I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm only doing 1% less compared to last year. Well, same period last year. And then I'm also able to compare 30 days previously. So this visualization is a really great summary of how I'm doing overall. And just to call it out here, I'm only looking at my store revenue. Of course, I can pick any other type of revenue, but for the purposes of this, I'm only looking at retail. Then I can also see how that's progressing over time. And in here, I'm just looking at it on a daily basis. I can also change it to a weekly basis. And that's really cool to be able to see trends and pick out those metrics. Something else that's really important to look at is actually per caps and how that's trending over time. So as you can see, over the month of September, I'm doing pretty well. There's not much change here. I'm hovering around, the high $7 per person mark. Now, retail revenue is greatly influenced by visitation to the location. So something else that we look at is actually footfall. If you have footfall counters, you can look at how many people are coming into the shop. And over here, again, is just an overall summary for the month of September. How many people came in, how many people on average coming in daily into my store. And again, you're able to see 30 days previously and for the same period last year. Now, I didn't have footfall counters for my shop last year, so I actually don't have that data to compare to previous years. So I'll only be able to see this number the following year. And there's another trend that we highly recommend looking at. We've noticed this across all the sectors, that revenue and footfall are highly correlated. So it generally has a trend, the amount of visitors that are coming into the shop, that are coming into the venue, are also coming into your shop. Sorry, let me just rephrase that. The amount of the visitors that are coming to your location are also coming into your shop. So in this example, you can see that the trend follows. I have my footfall on the left-hand side, and I have my visitation on the right-hand side. And that there's generally a trend that's happening there. When looking deeper into this area, we can also look at the most popular times inside my store. And so over here, I can see that Thursdays, 2 p.m. and Saturdays at 2 p.m. are my busiest days and times. And why that's really important to note is because it'll enable me to make decisions in relation to staffing numbers. Maybe I know that during that time, I might want to have a couple more members in my store. Maybe I'd want to have an extra till open as well during that time. So knowing your popular times really enables you to create a better visitor experience. Now, digging deeper, now that we've looked at the high-level metrics, I actually want to know, what is my average order value? And I can track this through this visualization here. And as you can see, during this time period, and this is actually from 1st of January to 31st of December, so I'm not just looking at the month of September, I actually had a really big spike here. And that's probably in relation to a really big exhibition or an event that I ran. And so as part of that exhibition or event, I had really expensive items. Maybe it had a line of item in relation to jewelry. We were selling some beautiful gold necklaces, and they were a lot higher priced than all my other items in the store. And hence here, I'm seeing a peak in my total price. Sorry, in my average order value. And something else I can look at is my average basket size. So in this visualization, I've actually selected my financial year. I didn't want to look at it as per my calendar year. I just wanted to see for my financial year. And so I can see that on average, people are purchasing 1.34 items per transaction. And what's really cool is I can actually dig deeper and filter certain things, look by various metrics. And what I've done here is I'm actually interested in how my members are purchasing and how their transaction are going. Because what we did in this example is we actually had an incentive for members only. If you buy one item, the second item is 50% off. And was I successful or not? So just to show you what I did, I've actually filtered by writing a simple where statement. into this query box to only look at my members. And I can see that I was quite successful compared to overall basket size. My members basket size actually went up, and I'm sitting at 1.67. Just close that up. Something else that we look at is actually top products. Overall, we have hundreds of product lines, hundreds of items, hundreds of brands. So what we want to do is generally look at your top performing, whether it's brands or items. So in this example, we're looking at my top 10 products. I can look at my top 15 products if that's what I'm interested in. But it's a really easy way to understand, what are my top performers? What should I be ordering more of? What's making that difference? What are customers buying? And in the same sense, I can look at my bottom 10 performers. And I can see here that I've just been selling one item in each of these lines of business. Again, maybe I'd want to discontinue these lines. They're probably costing me a lot of money to bring in and have in my stock. And at the same time, maybe I want to discount them. Maybe I want to discontinue them, or maybe I want to dig deeper and understand why they're not selling so well. Something else that we could also do is actually look at a variety of metrics. So for this specifically, we're looking at sales performance by staff. And here, I'm just going to expand this out so that we can see it better. I'm looking at my salespeople and what brands are they selling. So maybe here I want to limit it actually to my top 3 salespeople. And limit it to the top 3 brands that they're selling. So that's really interesting to know. And I can immediately see how different proportions of the different brands are being sold by different salespeople. Again, in the same way, I can look at my bottom 3 salespeople as well as my bottom 3 brands. So the possibilities are countless in terms of what I can do. As long as the metrics and the measures are available about your data, they will be available in Dexibit, and I'll just be able to select them here. I'll go back to my dashboard. And if I want to dig further, I might actually want to see how specific merchandise lines in relation to my activities or exhibitions are performing. So in this example, I actually have an exhibition in relation to penguins, and I want to see how that merch is performing over time. Just going to open this up. And what I did here is actually I looked at overall revenue, and I filtered by writing, again, a very simple where statement that included penguins. So I'm searching for all of my merch that includes the words penguins. And in the same sense, maybe I want to look just at my top 5. While that's loading, if you're not familiar with writing where statements in SQL, we do have a little help documentation here. So if you click on that, it'll give you tips and hints of how to write specific where statements to filter for what you want. And as I can see, that actually my biggest item was Mate for Life. And it brought in $3,000. Once we finished looking at the deeper insights and done all the specific analysis that we wanted to, we'd probably also want to look at how things are performing. Am I hitting my KPIs? And over here, we're actually looking at our revenue forecast. So we're looking at how what our predicted revenue was, and did we hit that number? And so this is my last month forecast to actual. So this is super, super powerful. And as you can imagine, you can actually look at it into the future and use that to predict and have a look at how next month revenue might be performing. And in the same way, we can actually break it down by different lines of revenue. So again, here I actually have cafe, e-commerce, education, membership, store, and ticketing. Maybe I only want to look at my store. So I can actually just very quickly remove all these and just have a look at my next month forecast for revenue, for that store revenue. Again, super powerful and enables me to understand what I should be expecting next month, which then leads very nicely into me setting some revenue goals for my teams. So I am using these forecasts to inform decisions around what I should be aiming for, what kind of targets should I be sending for my teams in general, but also even for maybe individual salespeople. And over here, I'm actually comparing my actual retail revenue against my goal. So as you can see, for this goal, I'm actually not performing too well. So maybe I need to have a think of what's happened. I'll need to look at the data retrospectively. I'll need to have a look in the almanac to see what has happened. I'll need to probably check visitation numbers to see maybe not enough people came during that time. Maybe there was a snowstorm or something happened. Maybe we had an outage on one of the tills, and hence we were not able to make that revenue. Again, these kind of insights enable us to ask questions and then investigate further into the why. Angie, I think that's pretty much it. Super powerful dashboard. There are so many things you can do in here, and you can answer any insight that you want. As long as you have that data coming in from your system, it will be in Dexibit, and you can slice and dice anywhere you want.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Veronika. That's amazing and fantastic to be able to take a look at all of these different KPIs, right from some of those high level ones like per caps and total revenue, all the way down to some of these more detailed ones around basket size and average order value and top products, and really get some of those KPIs going to manage retail. So thank you for that. For anybody on the call, feel free to drop your Q&A into the chat, and we'll work through a couple of questions. While we do, I did have one here, Veronika. You showed some of the machine learning forecasting for revenue, so predicted revenue. Can you talk a little bit about how that works behind the scenes?
Angie, this is new functionality to me. Maybe you can answer that question.
Oh, okay. So revenue forecasting and visitation forecasting work in quite the same way. So they train, we have machine learning models that have been researched and developed across sector. They are trained on data from all visitor attractions in our portfolio, and then on your particular location's performance. And they pick up on all sorts of trends and patterns and features in that data to make predictions for the future. So our machine learning models use all sorts of factors in their analysis, things like what the weather is doing, what school terms are on, what public holidays are on, days of the week, all of these sorts of things to make their predictions. And for revenue, they predict down to the day by line of business. And then we also predict other things like visitation performance as well. For retail, I think both are really useful because you kind of want to know how many visitors are coming to help with your staffing of your stores, like Veronika mentioned. And then for revenue, you want to know how much money you're going to make, which is going to help for things like financial planning and goal setting, like the example that Veronika showed. So we've got a couple of questions coming in here. Veronika, one here that says, what kind of systems do you use to get data from? And it's a double-barreled question. What kind of data can you get out?
In general, any systems, but if we're just talking, if the question related to retail specifically, Again, it's just any point of sale system that you have that will be able to connect. So for example, we have Shopify customers, Vend, Acme, TAM, Event Network, anything that you have, we will be able to connect that into Dexibit. And so what was the second part of the question?
And what kind of data can you get out of those systems?
Any data that you have. So any attributes, any measures that you have about your data, it will be available in Dexibit. So we take all of it.
I could see quite a few there in the example that you gave. When you clicked on those drop downs, you can see like discounts and refund codes and all sorts of things that are coming out of those source systems.
Yeah, cost of goods sold. Yeah, just all those key metrics that are part of retail operations.
I find for retail, the main sources that I like to use when I'm thinking about retail management and a visitor attraction, I like to have that visitation feeds that might come from footfall and ticketing. I like to have the footfall counters if they're available to show me how many people are coming to the shop, then point of sale, and sometimes the reviews as well, because particularly for food and beverage, I find usually a good proportion of those reviews are about the food and beverage experience, because it's quite an important part of the visitor experience. And so particularly if I'm like managing a third party provider of food and beverage, those reviews are really great to be able to look at how well they're doing.
Yes, that is something quite funny. Actually, we have seen that across many customers. Visitors care about food a lot, and so yeah, they are quite vocal whether they loved it or they didn't love it.
Yeah. Price, taste, and menu, isn't it? Usually the top themes coming through. Another question here. So the retail functionality that you showed, I think the new stuff, and there's a question here about that. We haven't yet got this in our Dexibit account. What do we need to do to get it?
That's something that we're rolling out across all of our customers currently. We've started off with our Shopify and Vend customers, so we're just rolling that out for them. But it will be available for everybody. And so what we're doing is your customer success will reach out to you in your next monthly business review and let you know when it's coming for you. But it is available to all of our customers, and we are rolling it out one by one.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, exciting new stuff with some of that more item and transaction level detail, and that's coming through and benefiting lots of different systems, not just point of sale and retail. We've been doing all sorts of fun things with that.
I was going to say, yes, so we just demoed retail analytics, but this functionality in terms of being able to look at that item level data, transactional level data, will be available across all data sets, whether it's ticketing, whether it's reviews, whether it's social media or membership, it will be available across everything in due course.
And there's some, Daniel did a great webinar last month on using Dexibit's query language, DXQL, which Veronika did a quick demo of in this session when we were looking at, was it member purchases and things like that. We saw, that where statement of like SQL kind of thing, but just a tiny little bit of it to power a visualization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a data analyst myself, but it's quite easy to use just that word statement. And having that help documentation where it just tells you if you want to look for something, for a specific word, how to write it. You just copy paste, put the word that you're looking for, and then it's done. It's quite simple.
Cool. And this is an interesting question. I might steal this one from myself. So in our store, our per caps are lower on our busiest days. How do we go about working out why and what to do about it? This is probably one of my favorite topics and I think one of the great sort of really easy wins with Dexibit around getting financial return out of your data investment. What we often see in visitor attractions is visitor attractions love to be busy, but sometimes on your busiest days, you have your worst performing visitor outcomes. And a typical correlation that we see is sometimes on the busiest days, the per caps or the amount of revenue per visitor in the stores actually drops. And the question then becomes why? And so to answer this question, There's a whole pile of detailed analysis that you can do in Dexibit, but pretty much you want to establish the reason for that. And you can do that by like correlating your visitation with other metrics out of your retail performance. So Veronika covered a lot of these KPIs in her session, but the key metrics that we tend to look at is first correlating that visitation with per cap to see what is the effect of busy days on my retail, on the retail spend per visit. Secondly, then taking that into that conversion rate of number of visitors to number of people going into the shop, using those footfall counters if you've got them. That says on our busy days, is it maybe about who's visiting or how they're visiting, that maybe people aren't just making it to the shop if it's not sort of a forced exit through the gift shop type situation. So that might tell us, like, if we've got big tour groups coming in and they're being rushed out to a tour bus and they're just not making it into the store. The next thing that I would then look at is the number of people who are coming into the store, or if you don't have footfall counters, number of visitors, against the number of transactions being made. So this will help tell us, like, do queues or lines form in the store and people just don't make it to the hill to make a purchase because they look at the line and go, oh, it's too busy, and walk away, they don't have time. And then looking at the number of transactions versus the revenue, so the average order value, average basket size, which might tell us, like, is how people are purchasing on busy days different? Like, is it full of like school kids who have only got a couple of dollars and they're buying lots of postcards or magnets or something of lower value, and that's why the per cap drops out? So by looking at all of these different KPIs that Veronika covered and comparing them back to how busy we are in the attraction or in the store itself, that gives us a really good idea of where this problem is coming from. And quite often what we find, it is due to those busy stores that mean people essentially abandon their cart like you would on an e-commerce site, but do that in store where they look at the queue and go, I'm not waiting. I've got to run. And something as simple as adding another terminal to the retail store, or adding some more staff members when it's busy on those really busy days, particularly when you can predict them, that is adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. So a really powerful thing. Sorry to steal the thunder, Veronika, but my favorite topic to talk about.
No, that's we quite often talk about these things, or just in general, even crowding at the location has such a big impact. Just because loads of people are coming doesn't mean the experience will be great. And being able to dig deeper into that and explore it, through Dexibit, I think has been very powerful. Yeah.
So fabulous question. Thank you for that one. Wonderful. Well, Veronika, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I'm so excited to dig into some of this new functionality that you've brought out with the product team into Dexibit. So very cool to see some of it on show and retail analytics. And thank you for taking us through that today.
No, it was great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And to everyone watching at home or at work, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Next first Thursday of the month, 4 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned.